May 10th, 2025. Welcome to This Week in Waukesha, podcast number 2 on this beautiful Mother's Day Saturday weekend. And again, I'm your host, Downtown Donnie Brown, and I'm coming to you from the office of former Alderman Don Paul Brown in our beautiful Banting Park home. And I'm joined virtually, but physically right across the street from my good friend and neighbor, Ron Gulotta, the associate professor and interim dean at UWM Waukesha, talking about Corby's Last Roar, a special celebration that's been several months in the making to honor and again to celebrate the legacy of great education that many Waukesha sons and daughters, as well as other Wisconsinites, have benefited from for the past 58 years. And I think when we left off, we were talking about Ron's plans at the event, and you'll be leading several toasts, but you'll also hopefully have an opportunity to enjoy. You won't be assigned any specific event or station, so you kind of get to take it all in. So, what else can people expect if that we may not have covered in the first session from the event, from Corby's Last Roar?
Um, I don't know that there are so much things for them to expect except to see other past alum and catch up. That we're really hoping that the folks who attend make the event what it is
Sure.
by just being there and sharing with each other. But what they can do in the midst of that is walk the halls, see places that are familiar to them, remember
Sure.
parts of their life history,
Yeah.
and then take in many displays that have been put together, photo
Sure.
displays, video displays, and slideshows and such that tell the story over the decades of what life was like on campus.
Sure. I think that's neat. I think because I've heard of other schools no longer in existence, like Notre Dame High School in the
Hmm.
Milwaukee area, that still has all class reunions every year that are extremely well attended. And
Hmm.
from what I've been told, from what I've witnessed, actually very enjoyable for my brief time or my return to hospitality. And do you foresee this could be something that it's every year, every couple of years, where UWM Waukesha alumni are getting together here in our fair city to celebrate and
That
reflect?
that I'm not so sure about. Um, with any given reunion, you have to have somebody that's going to organize it.
Yeah,
So that would be the first hurdle. There would
sure.
have to be some interested folks who would want to
Hmm.
organize that. The second would be, where would you hold it?
Right.
We have the luxury of having the campus buildings still here for a few more months, but on an annual basis, that would be a challenge. Where would the reunion take place?
Right. Right.
So I'm not so sure about that. The third challenge is that our alum spent the first couple of years of any college career here, and as such, staying in touch as alum is kind of much more of a challenge than it would be at a four-year institution from which you graduated
Right.
and so
Sure.
forth. So
Sure.
I'm
Sure.
not so sure about that. I would
Okay.
say I would anticipate that there would be faculty staff reunions
Yeah.
um, at least once a year.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, I would definitely expect that to happen.
That's good. I guess this may be a more what what do you foresee or what as we both know, education has been under attack. I mean, ever since the Nixon administration, scholars have observed a kind of a decline in terms of commitment from our higher authorities.
Yeah.
And what do you see happening in the future of education, or I guess a better question would be, what are your hopes for the future of education?
Well, all kinds of things have ebbs and flows, rises and falls and rises again.
Hmm.
Um, in a very large picture, higher education became much more open and expanded after World War II, thanks to the GI
GI
Bill.
Bill, yeah.
And that was to provide uh, dually for developing the skill sets for a better economy, but also a temporary holding place for all the returning GIs that just couldn't go
Yeah.
back into the workforce
Yeah.
all at once.
Sure. Sure.
Um, we saw another great expansion in the 70s into the early 80s because my generation, baby boom generation, also needed that little bit of buffer. But that was also fueled. I skipped over the 60s where we got into the space race and the technology race. That
That's right.
really pushed us into science um, and engineering and
Hmm.
developing those areas through higher education.
Sure.
Um, I don't know. There's lots of possibilities on the positive side and the negative side. It's hard to say. Um, I'm concerned in the short run that America stands a big chance of losing its competitive edge by not continuing to contribute to higher education.
Hmm.
Um, we were the destination throughout most of the world for higher
Right.
education,
Yeah.
and almost overnight that has shut down.
Mm.
And other countries are picking up that slack and welcoming in that talent pool to their countries.
Right.
Um, So how are we going to replace that?
Hmm.
That's going to be tough to see. There are
Sure.
some folks who are touting AI will replace all of that for us. I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that concerns me. What the talent pool,
Hmm.
um, what it does for the economy, what it does for people's lives. What
Yeah.
what what are their futures going to be?
Sure. It,
So
and what's frightening to me, Ron, on the other side of the academic spectrum, I mean, of course, science and technology, it's great to see this, that increased focus. I guess they have it as far down as the elementary and middle school levels, but it seems like history and the humanities have really been pushed aside or
yeah,
are almost kind of being rewritten, worse than it was. Um, and we have so much to learn from our social history.
yep,
And what I guess what are some of your thoughts on that? Because obviously I'm very concerned about um,
yeah.
history.
So history has unfortunately become a ground of creating the narrative that you want, not
Yeah,
searching the truth that
yeah.
that was.
And I suppose it's always been true, but it's just gotten a lot worse. It's gotten more
Yeah,
extreme.
yeah, and
So
and, and so that concerns me that
yeah,
narratives can get changed and rewritten, and every time you do that, you're changing your history,
yeah,
not learning from it, but
sure.
trying to control it. That's problematic.
Hmm.
Things are not easily controlled.
Sure, sure.
So
That is
yeah,
true.
that's a concern. Other concerns are getting people to develop their skill sets to be communicators,
Yes.
to be writers and
Right.
speakers.
Yeah.
The future of education, K 12, really concerns me. The
Yeah.
atmosphere in K 12 teaching is terrible. Um, and we've been focusing on how terrible it is for a couple of decades, and it just gets worse, not better.
Yeah. How is that?
Are we going to have a talent pool that we need to teach in our schools, or are we simply going to have warm bodies in the classroom babysitting our children
Right.
um, with incompetent instruction? That concerns me. The quality that is attracted to education.
Mm.
Education is not a desirable occupational future for a lot of folks. There are folks who are dedicated to it that want to do it.
Hmm.
Um, I witness how many of them get into education and out very quickly because once they're in, they're not up for what it is these days.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a concern for me for all of our country's future.
Mm.
Um, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
concerns there. I'm sorry, but
No, no. I'm
um,
grateful to you for sharing, and
but
and
pendulums can swing.
yeah, and that's what I'm hopeful about too, and especially when
Yeah,
I think of academians like yourself that have devoted a lifetime to shaping young minds
yeah.
and open minds or minds
Hmm.
to be more open. And what? So if I could ask what's next for you, because I knew you were aiming for retirement, but I guess you were asked to stay on as the interim dean, if I
Yeah,
remember
I
that
was
correctly.
supposed to have retired last
So
June and
will that
was
finally
asked to
happen
stay
this
on.
June, or are you
So
going to
my
continue?
contract is up June 30th.
Okay,
So I will probably retire at that point or soon thereafter. Yes.
sounds great. Well, I know it's
Yep.
a well earned, well deserved
Thank you.
retirement. Yeah. So what are some other thoughts I guess you'd like to share about the legacy of UWM Waukesha that we haven't I guess covered in our discussion so far?
Hmm. I just like to say that it's a very unique campus, even among the old 2-year campuses. The
Sure.
Waukesha campus had a culture that was very positive and upbeat. It was a place to be part of a family. Even
Hmm.
though we were the largest campus, at largest we had 2,000 full and part-time students on
Wow.
campus.
Okay.
Um,
That's a nice
we,
size.
we still had a family atmosphere that a lot of people could plug themselves into and ground themselves in, uh,
Right.
both the faculty, staff, and the students. There's a place for them to grow. We
Hmm.
were a place that gave them a really great start because there were very few other places they could go where, as freshmen and sophomores, they would get to be club presidents, um, become presidents of the student government, engage in research with faculty members, present at posters in the rotunda. We still have students that present at posters in the rotunda. Um, so there were all kinds of opportunities for them to get engaged, to experience collegiate life,
Neat.
um, and then carry that forward into their next institution.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, probably the strongest legacy of the
Sure.
2-year campuses, especially Waukesha's campus.
Yeah.
Great place to start uh, for folks that would have really floundered had they tried to go to a 4-year institution for their
Yeah.
start.
Yeah. You
Um,
know, and I want to emphasize here is that this announcement of closure was beyond the college's control. It was a higher level
correct.
decision, and it wasn't a reflection on the performance of the college and what had been achieved. And when you mentioned the culture that was established, that there was this extracurricular or at least multi opportunity um, kind of culture of participation for the students to learn and grow, that one could argue that that's unique compared to this, I guess, that stereotypical perception of the junior college as the commuter school where kids
Hmm.
in for their class and then they go home.
Right.
That there was so much more, there was a bigger bite of the apple there for students at UWM Waukesha.
Yes. And one of the colleagues that I'm grateful for having shared my entire career at Waukesha with was the developer or was the director of student development, Sue Kalinka.
Mm,
She just brought and organized so much campus life for the
sure.
students over the last 25 years.
Hmm.
So she's a big part of that.
That's great. And you mentioned that distinguished speaker series, which again
Hmm.
I would argue would be very unique for a junior college to organize and host something like that. We had
Hmm.
some, so that is terrific. And I would imagine that even though the college is closing, that what you've accomplished is a playbook for other colleges to look at and maybe develop some best practices for sure.
We hope so. We hope so.
So, well, that may could be a project for us in your retirement. Is maybe we
Yeah.
co-author a book um, on what I see is the more I'm learning about it has been kind of an ideal um, junior college learning environment that
Hmm.
had a lot of the great benefits of that
Yes.
four-year school, but it also had a nice size and this interdisciplinary approach to knowledge sharing and learning.
Hmm.
And again, and the proof is in many of the alumni that have
Yes.
gone on to live very productive and meaningful lives, and,
Yes.
and, and you could say their best lives.
Right. And I'm
So
sure we will hear lots and lots of those stories on the 22nd.
sure, sure. So yeah, is there something in place? Because we know we talked about a lot of capturing. Are there students or staff in place to maybe kind of capture some of those memories? Will there be like camera, video, audio? Um, things like that?
I'm not sure that we're going to have that because the
Okay,
time frame is really short.
you got it. So
Um, but if there's interest, we
yeah,
can set that up for the next few
sure.
weeks and have
Well,
some.
well,
Uh,
maybe I can do something with civic
yeah,
media to try to
yeah,
put something like that together. So
sure,
we'll see. I know a young man in our studio back there at WAUK in Radio Park who's got a very promising broadcasting career ahead of him. So maybe if he's open on that day, we might see what how that could shape up, as well as some other
sure.
civic media has this big emphasis on local news and history, and so
Hmm.
we'll see what we who we can enlist from that. So, any other like final comments, Ron, about the Corby's last roar and the UWM Waukesha legacy before we call it a day?
Uh, I guess one thing would be to point people if they're at all interested in getting a little more information. There's a website, simply Corby's Last Roar. Corby is Corbys, Corby'sLastRoar.com. There's a large picture bank, a photo bank of memories up there,
Nice.
um, and then a chance for people to connect up and indicate if they'd like to come, find out a little more about who maybe is coming,
Hmm.
kind of check to see if they remember anybody. So
That sounds great.
check that
Very,
out.
I will. Associate Professor Ron Gulotta, and interim dean, UWM Waukesha. Thanks so much for sharing your story and the college's story
Sure.
with us today. And I know not only as neighbors, but also it'd be great to reconnect in
Yeah.
future shows
Sure.
to talk about what's going on in the city that we love. And
Yes.
thanks
We.
also for your contributions to the college and to the community.
All right.
So, but I'm
Thank you
sorry.
too for promoting this for us.
Sure. And I think you had a final comment there. I'm sorry I cut you off there.
I was just going to
But
say thank you for
sure.
as well for promoting the event for us.
And the pleasure's all mine. And hopefully I should be able to carve out some time to attend Corby's last roar.
We look forward to seeing you
So
there.
sounds great. Thanks again, Ron.
All right.
Everybody for listening. And you can always check out This Week in Waukesha on my page on civicmedia.us. I want to thank my extraordinary producer, the mighty Max Martinson, and congratulations in advance on his pending graduation from MATC and what I know will be a very promising career in broadcast communications. So thanks again, everybody. Remember, safety is everybody's responsibility. Go Remila Maga and see ya.